in next door to Jean. She was just 73 years old, a living history book, and I love to hear her tell stories. Today, I'm going to share a story of an ordinary housewife who not only shared but made history. This is about Jean. Not only was she my neighbor, she was my dear friend. Jean lived from World War I beyond the war in Afghanistan. She witnessed the telephone to the internet, the horse and buggy to the rocket ship. She mourned with this nation when JFK and Martin Luther King were brutally assassinated. And much more. She tells a story the night Prohibition ended. The city of Chicago was alive, she said, and everyone was so happy. Wonder why? So she and her friend wanted to know as well, so they wandered into a saloon, and at the age of 15 were served a couple of beers. And Jean admitted she didn't like the taste of the beer, but she sure was having a good time, and she wasn't going anywhere. She stayed on that bar stool and drank that beer. She met Marvin at the age of 16 at a Maine East dance. Marvin owned the auto parts store in downtown Des Plaines. When they were 20, they married, they lived upstairs, they ran the shop. Jean told many stories of customers who would not allow her to wait on them because, as a woman, she couldn't possibly know anything about auto parts. Some things don't change. In 1942, they moved into a home that they won in a VFW auction, which is the home they lived next door to me in. They raised 3 kids, and for the most part, they were a typical American family. But in 1969, at the age of 51, Jean would make history. She didn't ask for it, she didn't sign up. She was sequestered and became the most talked about juror in the Chicago 7 trial. It's a trial that tore apart our city and our nation. Now, for those of you who don't know, in 1968, 8 men were arrested during the Democratic National Convention for inciting riots. One, Bobby Seale, later was taken off the trial. That's how it became the Chicago 7. At that time, about 500 Americans were dying each week in the Vietnam War, so many, many people came to our city to protest the war and our political climate. A series of riots broke out, and even though a federal investigation concluded that it was in fact the police who incited most of these riots, if not all of them, these boys are still tried. Now, Jean didn't like long-haired, bearded boys, so seeing beyond their appearance really wasn't easy in a trial that was really against the hippies. But even though they were disrespectful, she understood they were trying to send a message that our system was broken, and later history would agree. After 20 weeks, 200 witnesses, 300 exhibits, the jury is asked to decide their fate. And Jean writes in her journal, "If one is found guilty, they all are. My God, what a decision to make." Now, she knows they could have behaved better and wishes they hadn't cursed so much. And why didn't they leave the protesters better? All 12 jurors must agree on the same verdict, but these guys can't do it. Usually it's a mistrial. The judge forces them to go back and deliberate. This will bite him in the butt later on. After 5 long days, a forced compromise is arranged. For the charge of conspiracy to incite a riot, 7 are found not guilty. 5 are found guilty for crossing state lines with the intent to incite a riot. Well, Jean felt horrible for abandoning her innocent vote under the pressure of the judge. But it's later Jean's testimony that about the one-sidedness of the trial and the judge's behavior that will overturn their convictions. But this too comes with prices of death threats and bomb threats because she was, everybody felt that they were guilty. So this is how Jean made history. Average housewife, ordinary housewife from Des Plaines, chosen by the prosecutors, who didn't think that she would see beyond their appearance to their innocence or see the one-sidedness of the trial. Of all the neighbors I could have moved next door to, I wound up with the youngest old lady I've ever met. Jean passed away last year, just 2 months shy of her 100th birthday. It was pretty sad. 26 years of friendship. I miss Jean's wisdom, entertaining accounts of her life and history. She was my mentor and friend, and I can still hear her say, "This is Beth. Not only is she my neighbor, she's my dear friend." Thank you.